Alright team, take two of trying to record this, the Boogaloo. Welcome to All the Waves 2. This is a naval combat simulation. In fact, I'd argue it's a naval strategy simulation. Quite a unique genre. It's made by a small team. They do a lot of games like this. In fact, I think the engine is about hitting its limit with this game, but I will show you why I think this game's really cool. If you're familiar with me on Discord, you will be familiar with the gratuitous number of screenshots that come out of this game. So we will start a new game. We want to play 1900. You can start in 1920 if you want the post-World War I start. So all the treaties are in place. The German Navy is absolutely fucked. I don't know how often I can say that, but we'll see. But we want to start in 1900. We want to start in the age of the battleship. As you can see here, we have a number of countries to select. We have the British, who have the highest budget, of course. The Italians, who are just kind of there, not good nor bad. Austria-Hungary, if you feel like pain. Bomb and torpedo. Yes, the Kaiserreich. Can't remember what the Kaiser called his navy, but you can try and make the high seas fleet work. It's a difficult mission. And we have Tsarist Russia. And my last playthrough was Tsarist Russia, and it was probably the hardest playthrough I've ever had to do. You end up needing at least two navies on completely opposite ends of the globes, and don't go to war with Japan, I guess. You play the Japanese, who actually start the game sort of as a bit of a lame horse, but they'll pick up. And the Americans, who gain advantages on getting the early modern battleship, but they will pick up after about 1930. Until then, they tend to get bullied around by the old world a fair bit. Today we are playing as France. As France, we are a liberal democracy. We have a reasonable game budget. Not spectacular, not as much as Britain, not even as much as Germany, but comparable. We will have no access to oil. We do get quadruple turrets, which is what friends of mine have demanded I make during our time in this game. The goal is 4 turrets with 4 guns each, resulting in a 16-barrel monster, hopefully of 18 inches caliber. So we're going bigger than Yamato, guys. At the start of the game, we have everything from 2 inches to 13 inches, which is better than most. Great Britain has the same. The problem with the 13-inch guns is that they're fucking awful. How awful? Pretty awful. We will see later. So we'll go, our name will be Batan. We will have very large, because we are a very, very large colonial empire. We could turn historical resources on. We'll just keep this on game. We want 100% research rate, so you can slow the game down, so the battleship era can last all the way to the 50s. Or if you don't like your battleships being completely obsolete after 4 years. Very technology. This is if you want the alternate lifestyle. Maybe aircraft just aren't good. Maybe torpedoes is where it's at, or submarines, or maybe the naval gun physics change and the naval gun suddenly has 50% more range. And slow aircraft development. This is what you pick if you want carriers to not turn up until about 1950, towards the end of the game. But we will go with a regular build. We will build our own legacy fleet. What does that mean? I will show you in a minute. Select the empty save slot. And 5 minutes. Alright. I'm going to pause here and we are going to see the entire interface. Alright, here we are. We are now taking up the full screen. First things first, we will set our intelligence to keep an eye on everyone, not to any particular overwhelming degree. And we're going to look at the world map. And we see, as France, we have old Europe, the Mediterranean and Northern Europe. We have the African colonies, because if you're not a real European power unless you have African colonies. And of course, France is a real power. Southeast Asia, we have Indochina, French Indochina. We have a few islands in the South Pacific, nothing in Central Northern Pacific, nothing in the South American zone. We have Antilles, little Antilles in the Caribbean. Yeah, it's going to be fun trying to keep the Americans from pinching that. And of course we have French Algiers, because Algiers is France. Alright, and now we need to build our fleet that will defend and patrol the great French dream of fraternity, love, secularism, and liberty. Now we don't have dreadnought battleships. We have pre-dreadnoughts, which is rather a different era. And the game has automatically generated one for us. We will take a good name. We will leave it at that then. And I would like to go down to 12 inches. So you see, 13-inch guns, we have a -2 on the quality here. If we go down to 12, we have only a -1. Which means we may have a chance of hitting things. Not an incredible chance, but a chance. Speed, I would like to go to 18 knots. You go below 18 knots, things start going to a crawl. You end up having a lot of trouble. 9 inches of protection. I'm happy with 9 inches of protection. We may go down to 8. We will go to 1.5 inches and 1 inch on the deck extent. So this is the protection of the ship. Right here. So 9 inches is not a lot, at least in the late game, but it is better than nothing. 8 inches on the turrets. No, we want 10 inches. And we will go 2 inches on the turret top. Secondaries will drop down to 5. 5-inch secondaries. Cool. For our armaments, we will pack in a few extra shells. The only fire control, well, the best fire control we get is the central rangefinder, which means there's some guy on the conning tower with a pair of binoculars, and all the guns scaled to whatever range he has set. We may go and put single turrets on, take it up to 8 inches. Now these designs weren't terribly effective. There was a lot of confusion between who's firing what and what shell splashes were whose. But this is accurate for the period. I will say, if we pretend that we know what's going to come around in the next few years, we drop it down to 6 inches and go to 12 guns, so 6 per side. 3-inch rifles, 3 inches are okay if you prefer weight of fire. You can go 4 inches if you want a little bit more impact per shell, but we won't worry about that too much. Submerged torpedo tubes. This is accurate for the era. They weren't always submerged. Sometimes they were just above the waterline, so they would just have to shoot them out. But the idea is that there is a torpedo launcher somewhere along the hull, close to the waterline. These never really did anything. In fact, I think throughout history we only have one confirmed hit of a battleship hitting another battleship with a torpedo, and that is sort of a guesswork at best. That's what they think happens. So we want to have 120 shells per gun. It gives a bit of staying power. Fire control positions, we'll have a spare in case one conning tower takes a 12-inch shell. We have down here a little bit of weight remaining. What do we want to do with our extra weight? We might just bring down our tonnage. Just make it a little bit cheaper to build these. No, I want a little bit more. 143. Well, yeah, that'll do us. That'll do us for now. Just check. All right, the Marengo class looks good. Yep, we want to go to the build dialog, and we are going to build 6, 8, 7. We'll go with 8. 8's a reasonable number. So the game will respond to what we build, and you will see sort of comparable fleets from the other nations. Some of them prefer to focus more on heavy cruisers. Some of them will have a very strong light cruiser game. Most of the time, people will keep even numbers of battleships. 8 inches. Do I have 9 inches reduced by 10%? I think we will just take that penalty. We will set our range to medium. 21 knots. We are almost, so we're 13,000 tons. That is almost as heavy as our battleships for almost none of the protection. So we will, I don't like 2-inch guns, I prefer 3 inches. We will drop some of the armaments. We have nothing but coal just now. See how far we can take that down. We only have 2 submerged torpedo tubes. How far can we drop this? 81 tons to spare. We might just go up a little bit. Our engine priority is normal. Our bout coverage is normal. Our deck is alright. I do like having the extra armor in the conning tower, and I do like having the extra armor in the turrets. But that may be because I am slightly paranoid. Yes, I like this. So we will just accept the rate of fire penalty. That will mitigate. If these ships even last that long, we may end up replacing them fairly quickly. I would like 4 heavy cruisers. We don't have as many cruisers as we have battleships. At this point in history, the battleship sort of just floats into the middle of the combat and blows everything else up. Well, that's what people think will happen. What actually happens is quite a bit different. We're having this bug again. I don't know why. As France, we always have this bug with our turrets. So I will just set these manually. We want 2 types of light turret. We would like a fleet turret. We would like a fleet cruiser. And this one is mostly going to be about protecting our larger ships from smaller ones, and generally just sort of spotting what's ahead, where we're going, who's where. Just these are the eyes of the fleet at this point. Thwax, I'm fine with that. I have no idea how to pronounce French. I work with them enough, but I never quite picked up the pronunciations. We will take off 2 of the 4-inch guns, and we will drop that to 3 inches. 3,900 tons, 22 knots. We may go with speed, which will shave a few knots. Oops. No, we can't go up to. Can't go up to 23 knots. So with a coal power plant, anything above 25 is, and you're going above a certain weight class, is very, very difficult. She will not be. Yeah, she will have. She's only immune at her longest range. We may give her 2 inches of armor. Pull the gun data again, and yep. So she'll be pretty immune to whatever destroyers can shoot at her. We'll just up that a little bit. It's on the low side. Ooh. Yes, good point. So that's why we clicked that red arrow there. Just in case we come across something like that, we will just go to 4,000 tons. And we'll just pack... Don't want too much ammo. Don't want this thing exploding too much. Go to 160 per gun. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That is satisfactory. Go to the build dialog. We will start with 8. And for our second type of light cruiser, there we go. For our second type of light cruiser, we would like what you would probably call a colonial cruiser. It's more like a police boat with some guns. This will have extra large spacious quarters. It will have a complement of marines. It will have, little sunshades for people to rest under. Basically things to make living for the European a little bit easier in the savage lands. We don't want starboard forward, we want starboard wing. And she'll have heavy guns, so she'll have a longer range than our other ship, but not as many guns. She's not expected to get into fights as often. She will occasionally turn up, but she's not... Yeah, that's cool. Admiral Charmer is sort of an individual ship name. I don't like using it for the class. She's a protected cruiser. We will add just a few more shells. 2 4-inch guns per side. That's just to chase off any destroyers that get a little bit too close. Do we want to go to 22 knots? We can go to 22 knots. We can go to 22 knots easily. Two-inch belt, secondary 0. We may just up for the protection on the turrets. No, too many turrets. No. 2 inches will be fine. We'll just check our gun data. So she's only resistant to her own shells at maximum range. So she has just enough armor to set off enemy armor-piercing shells. Yes, change type. That would make more sense for the name. Cosmel? Okay. We're happy with that. We will take... Yep. Cosmel, we will take 4 of you to protect our interests around the world as France brings liberty and civilization to the rest of the world. Ooh, so the game loves to do this where it will overcrowd. So imagine this being your dad's speedboat. This is basically the size of what we're dealing with. So we want to remove C and add back in P. No, P is too far ahead. What about Q? Q is fine. So this particular era, destroyers are basically small little boats that have a terrible habit of running ahead to charge enemy ships. Not terribly effective, but they can put the fear of God into anything bigger than you. We will put speed as our engine priority. I hope that hammering isn't coming through. I will check the recording later. 500 tons, so that's almost nothing in the grand scheme of things. Nothing else. There's not a hell of a lot that goes on with destroyers, at least in the early game. It's not until you get to about 1,000 tons that you get some really crazy designs. You'll see me having to do a lot of compromises. But once you get to about 1800 tons, you can start building the destroyer of your dreams. And we don't want to design more. We want to build more. We want a lot of these. I tend to deploy destroyers in 4 groups, so 12 is 4 groups of 4. So we have 8 groups. Now to figure out where we want these. So our first 4 destroyers will be our Northern Europe squad. Our next group, we will move to the Mediterranean. Great area of interest for France at this period. And in fact, still is. Southern France is a lovely people, beautiful woman. Our next group is our Indian squad. So they'll be looking after Madagascar. There are a few colonies on West Africa that will just provide security. Indian Ocean, Madagascar, part of the just around that area. Southeast Asia, we have a lot of investment in Southeast Asia, and we want to protect that. Ooh, I forgot we had the South Pacific as well. So we will build 2 more groups. And our second and last squadron will move to the South Pacific. Okay, so we built 4 of these colonial cruisers before, and we see down here we have tonnage on foreign stations. That sort of means, like, how much security are we providing to our glorious French Empire? Our glorious French Republic. So we will put these ships on foreign service, and you see, even though together they don't equal 29,000 tons, because they have this little C mark in their name, they are able to do the job much more effectively. And we have a little bit of cash left over. We may build 1 more battleship, the Redoubtable. Oh, we do not have the funds. Ooh. Okay. I will continue deploying our fleet. We will put 1 heavy cruiser in Southeast Asia. We will put 1 heavy cruiser in the Mediterranean. And these 2 we will keep for home defense. We're going to keep our battleships in port. Very important. We're going to keep a couple of cruisers here or there. So our light cruisers are our patrol force. We'll have a couple stay around at home, we'll have a couple move for the fleet, and we'll have a couple just sort of on police. Just keeping an eye on things on top of our foreign service boats. So the foreign service boats, the thing with foreign service boats is they will move independently. So if they see somewhere that needs to be sat on, they will go and do that. And we don't have to worry about where they're going or what they're indeed particularly doing. I'm going to put 1 in the Mediterranean. In fact, I will put 2 in the Mediterranean. And worst comes to worst, we will shuffle those around as needed. Yep. So we've got a nice spread of ships here. We will go to our map, and we can see here we have a whole bunch of little flags. And we can see what we have those flags defended with. A lot of 6-inch guns. I enjoy having 6-inch guns. They are better than nothing. They will not stop the enemy invasion all by themselves. but they will occasionally turn up. And if you are on not having the best of day, you're not emerging victorious, and you may need to, say, pull the red and blue parts of the flag off of the French flag, you may be able to retreat underneath your guns. They will act as a deterrent for anything that's smaller than a cruiser. 6 inches is really kind of regarded historically as the perfect naval round. Although they never quite cracked how to make a anti-aircraft shell out of it. Which towards the end of the gun era, the British and Americans came close, but they had, I believe, problems with ammunition getting jammed. But modern guns have surpassed anything that a 6-inch shell could probably perform, at least in regards to sheer weight of fire and performance and the diversity of shot. Now, we have a lot of interests in French Indochina. We don't want to lose these, but it is a savage land filled with very, very smart little people. So we're just going to improve the base. So as you see, this base capacity, that's 50. That's 50 units. I've never quite worked out how the game actually works that out. But basically we can fit more on if the base is bigger. So when we build these guns, the game will, when we go down and we have battles in the area, the game will randomly place these upon a landmass, or sometimes out at sea, depending on where it feels like. It'll never be the same place twice, so you will see these batteries move around where the game thinks they might be needed. Oops. But really, we want to get our funds down to less than 24,000. Oh, and after half an hour of fluffing around, we are ready to almost begin the game. We have finished building our initial fleet. Now we want to select ships that we have under construction. Can we start building another heavy cruiser? Oops. Maybe we can. Yeah, so there we go. We have one heavy cruiser in the yard being built 9 months away. We have finished our selection. First thing we're going to do, we are going to set our research rate on high. In this particular area, we want an emphasis on guns, and I prefer having damage control and at the early game, turret and gun mounting. And for doctrine, we will apply gunnery. It's very expensive to maintain, but at this stage of the game, it is a bit of a lifesaver. Choose your ammo automatically. That's a whole lot of mumbo jumbo. Don't worry about that too much. If you set it auto, the game, as far as I can tell, has never had a problem selecting what ammo type does what. We will check the fleets of the world. Of course, the British have the largest, followed by Germany, and then us. Our tonnage still looks comparable, so our battleships might be better than the German ones, but I believe the English have splurged on their battleship force. We are a little bit behind on heavy cruisers, however, which can be a problem for various wars, so we will not be able to afford to lose very many heavy cruisers. In the light cruiser game, we are acceptable. Our cruisers probably are more capable than the German or British designs. However, they are of course less numerous. And France being France, we have gone absolute ham on destroyers. The British are probably using a similar doctrine to us, just having a squadron based around the world in all their interests. And if we go here, we can take a look at what we know. So they're comparable in speed. They have less armor, but they have the same size guns, and they probably have more secondaries. Oh, that is my timer. Alright. So that's all for now. I will record another episode, and I hopefully will see you for the next one.